Women of Reddit, what is your nice girls finish last story? I had spent a year building up the confidence of my ex-boyfriend who was extremely insecure. Consistently reinforcing him that he is attractive, smart, worthy of any woman's time, you know, stuff a girlfriend should do for their partners. He left me for the girl he thought he never had a chance with because in his words, "You made me feel like I could do anything I want." I did not realize that involved doing other girls too. I did the same thing with my extremely insecure ex too. She then proceeded to cheat on me a couple times. One of which he made me pick her up because she was drunk. And she told me someone had attempted to her. Truth comes out 6 months later, she just slept with him. Hits home. When I broke up with my boyfriend of 5 years, he told me he'd been a crap boyfriend because I made him feel like we were family so he didn't need to really do anything else. Okay. Yikes, I feel that. I was the one who pushed my ex to apply to college, get his driver's license, and get a job. Dumped him because he was so antisocial that it was emotionally draining to me. He texts me months after, thanking me for making him realize he needed to be more social and do something with his life. At least my energy was not completely wasted on him, but it would be nice if he had given me more than just self-image problems. I had been telling my best friend for months about the huge crush I had on a guy in one of my classes. One day I asked if she would be there when we first hung out so I would be a little more comfortable. She had a class with him too, but neither of us talked to him much. She brought up the topic of sex and was telling him how she'd slept with 5.5 guys and was asking him about his experience. I admitted I'd never kissed anyone. After, he asked if she wanted to go to the soccer game with him while I had to go home. Within the week they were ducking and she paraded him around me. That sucks. How can one sleep with half a guy? She explained it as, he barely got the tip in and came. Now just doesn't count him in her number of guys. Have a friend that half did that with a few guys I liked. I was a virgin, she wasn't. When she'd meet them she'd talk about sex non-stop, kind of does anyways. Why waste time on a virgin when there's someone perfectly willing to put out? But they all ducked and chucked her, so I guess she saved me some time and hurt. We stopped being friends for a while. Reconnected through another friend's Facebook status cause we were both pregnant lol. Less than 0 chance of her stealing my husband so lol. I wonder if she knows who the daddy is. Oh she does, she slept around a lot. Not judging, just stating facts. She was very good about birth control and condoms, allergic to latex so always had her own on hand. He's no accident. Went off birth control and tried, with a dude she had known and been dating about a month, who then sexted multiple girls multiple times throughout her pregnancy, so, yeah lol. They also live with his parents who basically raise the kid for them. Something similar happened to me in college. This girl was interested in me, and her friend was in town, and she invited me to drink and go out with both of them. If I was reading the signs correctly, she was hitting on me, but I just met her friend and damn was she beautiful. We started talking about our love life, etc. Turns out she mentioned she's only had one boyfriend, and brought up how inexperienced she was and hasn't kissed another guy. Her friend seemed a lot more normal. It was a major turnoff. Inexperienced girls are a red flag. Long story short, hooked up with her friend that night and the day after, who lives in upstate NY now. Didn't really hit her up ever since her friend left. Why are inexperienced girls a red flag? Maybe not in high school or so, but in college and older, IMO, they are. They are quick to get clingy. They expect too much. They aren't good in bed, or they just don't put out. Which is fine, but if you're used to having sex frequently, it's tough to be committed to someone who doesn't want to have sex. It's a major conflict in lifestyle. No, you don't only date someone for sex, but a healthy sex life is an important factor for a healthy, strong relationship. That's why I am currently in a long-term relationship with someone who I'm incredibly sexually compatible with. It's not the only thing we like about each other, but it strengthens our relationship. You can still be sexually compatible with inexperienced girls. But more times than not, they have too immature of a view on sex. I found it easier to just generally avoid those type of women. First grade. I will never forget. Our teacher, who up until this point I viewed as a champion of goodness and justice, had to leave the room and told us to sit silently Indian style, yes I'm that old, in front of her chair to wait for her return. I was the only one who did it the entire time she was gone. Meanwhile, about 8 little a-hole boys ran around screeching like hooligans until someone shouted teacher's coming. And those misbehaving brats lined up in front of me like little angels right before she entered the room. They all got lollipops for being in the front row. I had left some space because I had remembered how teacher had always laughingly said, leave a little room for my feet. Everyone else, myself included, got punished. My face burned with rage and I cried, but I did not tattle because I knew teacher didn't like tattletales. The injustice burns me to this day. And that was the day I learned life isn't fair. I was 6. This is supervillain origin story material. Made a certifiable best friend my sophomore year at college. We were both studying in Ohio, but originally from Indiana, so we carpooled to visit home. We became inseparable and I bent over backwards to help her with any little thing. She was even the one to let me know that we would be applying to transfer to a school back in our home state, where her boyfriend attended. I wasn't thrilled with paying super high out-of-state tuition, so I agreed. Flash forward a year, we're settled at our new college and she's cheating on her boyfriend. Hooray. I convince her to break it off with him. I was still good friends with the guy, and trying to hook up with his musician neighbor, so one weekend while attending one of his house parties, he pulls me away to bemoan his breakup and go on and on about how they'll get back together, they're destined for each other, etc. I felt bad for the guy, not only because he was a super nice dude, but also because his ex-GF, my BFF, had her new boyfriend in her dorm room and were going to town. I cracked. I grabbed him by the shoulders, told him, don't you ever tell my BFF this, but you need to move on. She has. She's happy and you deserve to be happy. Just let it go. Next morning, my best friend has sent me Facebook messages galore calling me a traitor, awful person, etc. So yeah, I lost my best friend at the time because I told her ex-BF to move on. In hindsight, she was a pretty awful friend. TLDR, told my best friend's ex-BF to move on, best friend called me a traitor. I dated someone through the end of high school and most of college. We started out completely in love and constantly together, and then drifted into, well, let's just say I thought we were always in love, but looking back, it's clear we weren't exactly on the same page. This guy graduated from college a year before me, and invited me to his graduation. I hauled butt for nearly 2 hours on the subway to the other end of New York City. Didn't know where his family was sitting and all his friends were in the ceremony, so I sat alone for the whole boring thing. Afterwards we met up and said hi to his parents, who then went home. I was in college in another city, so I was looking forward to spending some one-on-one time with my boyfriend who I didn't get to see that often. We went over to his dorm, where he informed me that he still had to move all his stuff out. Where were all his friends? Nowhere to be seen. Strong guy neighbors? Nada. Family? Gone, obviously. So who was going to help him schlep all those heavy boxes down to his car? Why, his sweet, loving girlfriend, of course. I don't remember how long it took, but I was glad when we were finally done. Because it meant I was finally going to enjoy some romantic time with my guy, right? Haha, no, silly rabbit. No sooner did we finish shoving the last box of crap into his car than he said, well, thanks for your help. I'm going to go hang out with my friends now. I thought we would be spending some time together, just the two of us. I spent most of the year 200 miles away, dumb. Yeah, no, I want to go see my friends. The ones he has been hanging out with like every single day. But you can come too, I guess? If you want to. I declined, and went home. The penny finally dropped, as they say. I finally understood what he felt for me, which was nothing. Then I spent the next several months solidly kicking myself for being that dumb. I can't say my love life has been perfect since then, but at least I know I will never allow someone to take me for granted that way ever again. My good friend had horrible breast cancer. During her recovery, her good friend who was a nurse hung out with and helped with her recovery. It turns out the good friend was having an affair with her husband. Had a close male friend who had a rough breakup with his GF who cheated on him multiple times. We had always been attracted to each other but timing had never been right. After a while he asked me out, and I told him it might not be a good idea, as he seemed to still be affected by his ex. He waited a few more months and asked again, claiming he was over her. It was one of the best relationships I've ever had. We truly loved and cared for each other and had so much fun together for over a year. We discussed moving in together and our respective families were quite happy for us. Then his ex moved back to town. Even though she was living with her new so, she decided she wanted her ex, my partner, back. And apparently he wanted her back, too. I discovered him cheating, which broke my heart. He claimed he didn't know what to do because he loved us both, but ultimately chose to be with her. Now they are married but unhappy, as she got pregnant by another guy just months after their wedding. The whole situation makes me sad still. I can't even feel the slightest bit of schadenfreude. Edit. Thanks for all the kind words. I never imagined my sad sack story would be noticed, really. A few updates. After we broke up, we did that cliched thing of missing each other and hooking up a few times in the immediate months post breakup when he claimed he hadn't committed to her yet as he told her he wanted to take it slow in their reunification. He said he really struggled with loving two such different people at the same time. I know, I was stupid. I finally put an end to it by taking a job assignment to another country. I was heartbroken. Gutted, really, but moved on. I don't miss him and thinking about what happened just makes me feel sad for him, not sad for myself. I'm quite happy where I ended up, as I never would have taken the overseas assignment had we been together. Not so fun fact of this debacle, they had invited me to their wedding. What the duck? And no, I didn't attend. My dumb brother did this. His ex was in another state, had cheated. He was upset, but started dating and very quickly ended up marrying a mutual friend of ours. She moved in the wedding night, courthouse wedding. Within a month, the ex was back for spring break, college student. He cheated on the new wife with the ex. Took a year for the divorce to finalize. In the meantime, he knocked the ex up with their first kid. He, the ex and the baby move in with our parents for about 9 months after the birth. Then she took the baby to her folks out of state for Easter visit. At the end, the day she was supposed to be back, she said she wasn't coming back unless he joined the military, otherwise if he wanted to be with her and their child, he would have to move out there. He left on mom's and my birthday. Share a day. They have a second kid now. She won't let him contact any of us. Haven't spoken in over 3 years. The girl he married and cheated on has moved on. She's married with 2 kids. Your brother is in an abusive relationship. I guarantee it. This story needs visual aids to keep up. Maybe some kind of flowchart. I had a crush on a guy, who was also a very close friend, whom I would eventually end up dating. I wanted to ask him to prom, but I had heard through the grapevine that a mutual friend wanted to ask him to prom as well. So I called her and asked her if she was intending to ask this guy to prom. She said no, and I said cool, because I'm going to ask him to prom. I asked him to prom that week. He told me he had already been asked by the girl I had spoken to. It turned into a whole thing. It was dumb as crap and looking back I can laugh now but at the time it was bullcrap. I experienced kind of the same thing. I had a crush on this guy in high school my best friend knew. It was the last week of school and I mentioned to my friend that it'd be cool if we could all hang out after school on the last day before summer break. Friend made arrangements with a guy I liked and a few other people to hang out at the park near school. He and I sort of hit it off but it was the time before everyone had cell phones and I didn't ask for his home number but my best friend reassured me we'd all hang out again the following week. Well, the following week came and went without a word. Strangely I couldn't get in touch with my best friend all summer. The end of the summer came and we were back at school for the first day and I see her and the guy I liked walking hand in hand with each other in the halls. I subtly asked her what the hell? When we ended up having homeroom together. She admitted that she liked him too but didn't want to say anything to me about it, but they ended up dating all summer and broke up a few weeks into the school year. When I finally started talking to her again she told me not to be mad because he had a small penis and that I wouldn't have enjoyed him anyway. Obviously she and I are no longer friends. Regarding his small penis. Okay, well, I'd like to find out for myself, thanks. I have a mirror to this, kind of. Told my BFF at the time I had feelings for a dude. She encouraged me. The guy and I were already very close, but he is socially retarded. We were essentially a couple without the awkward teenager dialogue of "do you want to date?" Anyway, so I planned this whole thing. I made a lunch for us and tell him a day before I was making lunch and to meet me somewhere in the school. Wasn't abnormal, I'd made lunches for me, BFF, and him before to share. But this was just for us, and I was going to finally have that awkward conversation. BFF knew all this BTW. So lunch comes, and I'm standing in the hall waiting for the entire lunch period with this nice packed lunch, homemade cookies, handmade present, the works. He never shows. Turns out, BFF called him a couple nights before, told him she had always had feelings for him, she didn't, and had him help her with a project during that lunch period for the entire time. End of lunch. I threw everything away. Later that day I started having friends of hers come up to me saying nasty things about how I was trying to make a move on her boyfriend and I was an ugly bee, etc. Mean girls crap. I was completely confused and just ignored them. The next day I saw them. BFF saw me in the hall and jumped on him. Overly excessive PDA, etc. Guy didn't see me. Later when I saw him alone, I told him I couldn't handle being around them for the time being, that it hurt, and I was sorry. We ended up not talking for 2 years, during which time he moved to a different state and she constantly rubbed the relationship in my face. Years later I found out they broke up when he moved, but she kept me thinking they were still together the whole time. I just ignored her, and most of our friend group blacklisted her even though I told them to leave the issue alone and not be mean to her. She eventually tried to suck up to me and worm her way back into the group, and I was kind to her but kept her at a distance, figuring people already saw her for what she was and any unkindness I put towards her would be a negative reflection on myself. Anyway, years later Guy and I started talking again, rekindled friendship and found out we still had feelings for each other. It came out through talking that he had no idea about the things the girl, former BFF, had done. He blamed himself for splitting the group and was confused why girl was always so cold to him and a terrible GF. He came to visit a few times over the years, and eventually offered to have me move out to a different state and room with him. I did, and 6 years later we are married and so stupidly happy and in love it makes everyone sick. TLDR, BFF takes guy I like out of spite, treats both of us like crap, but doesn't matter cause I husbanded him for the win and now both of us are happy. Hashtag high school drama. I went out to a club with the guy I was dating and my friends, who he didn't really know. When it was time to leave we all walked home together. I was staying over at the guy's house that night. I was pretty drunk and not feeling great so I decided to go AskReddit and go to bed. I was worried about leaving my friend so I asked the guy I was seeing if he could make sure she got home okay as it was late. She only lived 5 minutes up the road. I waited in his bed for over an hour for him to come back. When he eventually did, he went straight to sleep. I found out a week later that he slept with her whilst I was waiting. I used to, and still occasionally do, bartend at a dive bar of ill repute. The other bartenders treat the bar like their own personal cooler, take advantage of the drugs being tossed their way by customers, frequently get too wasted to effectively work, disappear into the stock room to duck customers while the bar is still open and of course overcharge customers to pocket the extra cash. I don't do any of these things. Don't do any of the drugs offered to me, for the most part. Stay sober so as to be able to count money and always let crap-faced customers know when they've accidentally given me a $10 bill as a tip when I'm sure they meant to hand me a $1. I have a boyfriend and let the more amorous customers know that I'm faithful and there's no chance. I try to be a good employee. I still get regularly blamed for stealing or drinking the liquor I guess because everyone else always does and the owners are paranoid. Went on a date with a guy I met through my friends. They're married. It went great, texting every day, etc. A couple of weeks later, our friends invited us to hang out. After a few drinks, we started playing Never Have I Ever. It ended up coming out during the game that I've never had sex. Long story. He stopped texting me after that. I found out a few weeks later that he started sleeping with one of our friends that was over that night. They started dating soon after that, and coming over to hang out. Then my friends mentioned all of us going bar hopping. It sounded fun, and I was game. Then they said, actually, would you mind babysitting the kids? You're responsible and we trust you. Besides, it's gonna be couples going anyways. I learned that day that responsible does not equal fun. At least I have a great job and a motorcycle. I've had friends try that with me. Oh, you should babysit for so and so they can come to the parties we throw. You're responsible. I declined. I work just as much as everyone else. I want to have fun on the weekend, not work more by default so everyone else can have a great time. I had been dating a guy for roughly a month after being friends for a year or so. One day he told me that he wanted to break up because he had realized he was in love with his old friends with benefits, and that I want her to make me happy the way you make me happy. I was infatuated with this guy in my first year of college. We hung out, he lived on my floor, and I really wanted to go out with him, but I was too nervous. So one day, I bake a tray of brownies. I make them from scratch, spending hours to impress him with my man-catching baking skills. I bring the brownies to his room, wearing what amounted to a homemaker dress, and knock on the door. "Just a minute," he shouts. There's some clambering and rustling, but I make nothing of it, thinking he must be playing video games in his underwear or something. Turns out, he was rushing to put clothes on because he had a sex worker in his room, and he thought I was coming to investigate the 30-something-year-old woman he had brought into our dorm. Long story short, I ate the brownies by myself that night and he never spoke to me again, perhaps out of embarrassment at being caught paying for sex. I repeatedly lose guys to my best friend. Sometimes I realize that they're not nice guys, but sometimes it's guys that I really like who end up treating her really well while she treats them terribly. She's very rude to all her boyfriends and starts every relationship off telling them I'm gonna dump you in 3 months when I get bored with you. A lot of them think she's joking and then 3 months in, there she is dumping them. I can't tell if she's doing it on purpose or not because I never tell her I like the guys, so I don't know if she's picking up the vibe that I like them or it's completely coincidental. I've told her before that she does this and it's almost like she doesn't care. She just tells me act more outgoing and interesting when we meet the guys and they won't go for her. The worst part is a lot of the guys admit to me later that she's a B to them. They regret going out with her or that they should have went for me when they had a chance. One painful dude in particular told me I wasn't physically his type but she was, and that's why he went for her. Hey, thanks for making it all the way to the end, you absolute Chad. You're a legend. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe for more of Reddit's top content. I'll see you in the next video, you beautiful people.